5 full thumb. I just saw Barbie, and it was damn good, actually.
So the Barbie movie is a pretty hot topic to talk about right now, specifically amongst right-wing circles. And they've been running with this narrative that the Barbie movie is anti-men and inherently misandrist. And for a while, I couldn't really form an opinion on that because I hadn't seen the movie. But fortunately, I just saw it a few days ago, and I know for sure now that all of those people are full of shit. So I want to start off by talking about the song Push by Matchbox 20, which is featured pretty prominently in this movie. And I also kind of want to talk about the cleverness in choosing this song specifically. See, the song is written from the perspective of a woman who is emotionally abusive to her boyfriend, a concept almost unheard of in the year of our Lord 1997 when the song came out. The song was written by Matchbox 20 singer Rob Thomas, not to be confused with the creator of iZombie Rob Thomas. This is Matchbox 20 Rob Thomas. I'm talking about Rob Thomas, not Rob Thomas. Do you see what I mean? I just want to make it perfectly clear that I'm talking about Rob Thomas and not Rob Thomas. Because Rob Thomas is Rob Thomas, while Rob Thomas, the idea of a woman being abusive to her partner in any way was kind of a new idea at that time. So the vast majority of people who heard it interpreted the song as being misogynistic. They thought it was Rob Thomas singing from his own personal perspective about his part, when the truth is that the song is the complete opposite of that. But because of patriarchy, no one would ever assume that a woman could be abusive to a man because men are supposed to be seen as stronger than women. And based off of that inherent assumption, people just thought that the band were a bunch of abusive misogynists. And I think that backstory, along with the themes of the song itself, are perfect for this movie. This is actually very much a pro-male, a very male-positive movie, but you wouldn't think that if you are so pea-brained that you can't look beyond the aesthetics, the main, girlish aesthetics of the movie. But it very much is in support of men. And since the feminism aspect of it as it pertains to women has been discussed probably to death at this point, I actually kind of wanted to take a look at the other side, which is what it says about men and the unfair expectations that are put onto men under a patriarchal structure. See, I'm pretty sure the reason why most people think it's anti-men is because it has this very staunchly anti-patriarchy slant to it, which, if you think patriarchy just is simply nothing more than just men running things, then you have a severe lack of understanding as to what it actually is and why patriarchy is bad for men as well. Because the fact of the matter is that it does not matter what hierarchy society is functioning under, nobody is going to be exempt from being in a hierarchical structure, including the in-groups. Men put unfair expectations onto other men as well, and that happens all the time. Literally any time, you can watch any clip from any of these manosphere shitheads like Fresh and Fit and Abba and Preach, Andrew Tate, 95% of all gym bros who have a Twitter or TikTok account, looking at another man and saying, I believe you are not a true man because you do not adhere to these specific attitudes, these specific ideologies, and these specific outward appearances, like anytime they call somebody soy or beta. That's pretty patriarchal of you, man. I thought boys looked out for other boys. That's not very boys looking out for boys of you to say. So it's no coincidence that these are the same shitheads complaining that this movie's anti-man, because it's actually anti-them and anti-their piece of shit values and their piece of shit ideas, and they feel threatened by it. And they fucking should. The first scene I'll start with is the scene where, near the end, where Ken is talking to Barbie and saying how it was so tough trying to run everything and have men running everything, and that is very, very much true. See, leadership roles inherently kinda suck, because no matter what you say or do, and no matter what your intentions are, a lot of people are not gonna like you, because a lot of the things you implement aren't going to have a positive impact on them immediate. And it's a responsibility that has been entrusted onto men since fucking the dawn of man. And it's also one of the main reasons why diversity is so necessary. When you have a group of people who are largely homogenous, there's not gonna be a whole lot of exchange of new ideas. You need as wide and diverse of a group of people as possible for anything that requires teamwork, because having that many different perspectives is what helps society grow. There's also a moment later on in that same scene where Barbie says to Ken, "It's Barbie and it's Ken." I feel like that was a pretty important message to include in there as well. What the movie's saying there is that women do not need men to define them as women, and vice versa. Men don't need women or a woman in order to validate themselves as men or as a singular man. That your own value and your own worth is not determined by what other people think of you and what other people expect of you. See, there was this badass big-dicked Sigma male way back in the day. His name is Mr. Rogers. You might have heard of him. And he always tried to promote this exact same message at the end of every episode of his show, when he would say,
"You always make each day such a special day. You know how? By just your being you. Only one person in this whole world like you."
There's a lot of chuckle fucks who misinterpreted him saying that to mean you don't need to work hard to be special, or that it's okay to be lazy.
Mr. Rogers.
This evil man has now ruined a generation of kids.
And you know what? These experts are saying that the kids of today who grew up with Mr. Rogers were told by him, "You're special just for being who you are." The idea that being working hard and having high ambitions for yourself, discount it. Mr. Rogers' message was, "You're special because you do."
Comes out of Louisiana State University. A professor there has examined just what damage Mr. Rogers may have done to this whole crop of kids who now feel entitled just for being them. And what he says is, instead of telling them, you know, "You're special, you're great," why didn't he just say, "You know what, there's a lot of improvement. Keep working on yourself."
Really, what that means is you have inherent worth. You have inherent value, and that is something that cannot be taken from you by anyone or anything. But no, we can't be having individualism, though. That's fascist socialism. Another pretty good way I feel the movie demonstrates the patriarchy is bad for men as well aspect is how the Barbies treat weird Barbie at first. Even though she is a Barbie like all of the other Barbies, which means that by all means she should be just as beautiful and just as much of a Barbie as all the other Barbies, she is instead treated as an outcast. Very much the same in our patriarchal world. The movie also does this pretty clever narrative structure where even if you inverse the power structures of Barbie Land and the real world, so if Barbie Land was instead a patriarchal society and the story was about them coming into a matriarchal real world, all of the criticisms that the movie has still works, because the theme of the movie is that Any hierarchy is bad, regardless of who the main in-group is, be it women or men, if it was fucking chipmunks or giraffes. Like, hierarchies are just inherently bad for society as a whole. It's also funny how so many people miss the very obvious analogy of, like, feminism becoming widespread, with Ken literally taking patriarchy and then bringing it back and spreading it to everyone. And the movie makes it very clear that the only reason why this happens is because all of the Kens feel like they are treated very unfairly. They feel like they're treated as second-rate citizens. And when you keep getting pushed around so many times over and over again, you're eventually gonna say enough is enough, and you're going to want to try to take some power back. It's where the feminist movement spawned from. It was women wanting to take back some power for themselves because they were always treated as second-rate citizens, if they were even treated like people at all. I also want to briefly talk about parallels to another movie that I kind of noticed with the movie Barbie. That movie being Pleasantville, starring Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon. The movie is about two high school siblings who get sucked into a Leave It to Beaver, Dick Van Dyke-esque classic 50s television program, the titular named Pleasantville. Then these two kids proceed to just start complete anarchy with their spread of free thought. All because the citizens of Pleasantville, who didn't want to change, don't like the changes that they see, and so they directly start attacking the other citizens who have started thinking for themselves. Now, the movie very overtly has an anti-racism message as it draws parallels to the civil rights movement. Very, very obvious, starting with the scene where one of the storekeepers puts up a sign that says no coloreds allowed, but it means just the people who have gained color because they've decided to engage in like arts and philosophy. But it also does do a pretty good establishing a bit of an anti-patriarchal message as well. The Jeff Daniels character, who runs the local hop, just wants to paint. Like, that's literally all he wants to do is paint, but he's afraid about how he will be seen if he paints, because expressing oneself as a man was seen as a bit of a womanly thing to do. By the way, a philosophy started by Plato and Aristotle. They were specifically critical of men who played an instrument called the aweois, which was just essentially like a primitive clarinet. It was like a reeded flute instrument. Plato and Aristotle were of the opinion that when you play a wind instrument and you blow, you start expressing emotion in your face because you have to squint and you have to, really morph your face in a way to get a specific timbre, or as the main method of playing the instrument, like as is the case with brass instruments. They said that this expression of emotion was feminine in nature, and it was why wind instruments should only be played by women. Meanwhile, men are much suited for stringed instruments, like a harp, or a lute, or a lyre. Then when you think about how a lot of toxic masculine men view jazz music versus rock music, you'll start to see that certain things just never fucking went away. So yeah, overall, I rate this movie an 8 out of 10, and I rate all the incels who missed the point a fuck you.